Hi, this is Janey, Imaani, and welcome to Emotional Awareness. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the difference between being judgmental and making a judgment. So the reason why I'm making this video is because I've been working with a lot of well-intentioned people who are so concerned about not being judgmental that they can't discern between right and wrong, or what is a good thing versus a bad thing. Like, I was talking to a 23-year-old client the other day, and she was saying that her friend drinks a bottle of wine every night before she goes to sleep. And as she was speaking, I can definitely hear that she was being a little bit judgmental of her friend. But underneath it all, what my client was trying to do was figure out if drinking a bottle of wine every night was a good idea or not. But because she was so worried about being judgmental, she couldn't just clearly come out and say, oh, that's an unwise decision. And instead she was saying, oh, she can do what she wants and that's up to her and stuff like that. But it was all sort of confused in her mind. And so sometimes, we evaluate other people's lives or other people's journeys because we're trying to negotiate with what our values or our principles are. Okay, so let's begin by looking at the dictionary definitions of judgment and being judgmental. Okay, so judgment is the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions saying this is a good thing or that is a bad thing. Like a judge has to judge between people, right? And so just like that, you are the judge of your actions and you have to discern which way to go. And so you have to make judgment calls between things to figure out if you should go this way or that way. Just like my 23-year-old client, I think she was trying to figure out whether she should drink or not. And so she has to decide whether that's a good decision or a bad decision. And once she does that, she can figure out which way to go. But now, judgmental comes from our place of ego. So judgmental is a harsh criticism, and we do that in order to make ourselves feel good about ourselves. So that's like my client saying, oh, that's, that girl, she's so dumb, she's so stupid, she's never going to make anything of herself, and I would never do such a thing. And so what you're doing there is that you're using somebody else's choices to pat yourself on the back. And it's very important to be aware of the difference between judgment and judgmental, because otherwise it can take you out of alignment. So I remember when I was working with a very religious client, and after a couple of sessions she discovered that she was being very judgmental of her friends and family. And so when I asked her, what makes you judge your friends and family so harshly, she said, after a little while she said, I think it's because I'm afraid of falling into the same traps and making those same mistakes. So by being judgmental, what she was trying to do was create a barrier between her and them, and it was her way of protecting herself. So being judgmental is sometimes like a safety net, and that's what we're sort of trying to do in order to protect ourselves from making unwise decisions. But obviously being judgmental is very unkind, and it's not sort of accommodating to somebody else's life journey, and it creates sort of distance between people too. So here is the question: how do we stick to our values and our principles and not become judgmental? So first of all, I'd like to say it's a very slippery slope. It's extremely easy to slip from judgment to being judgmental, and it takes hyper self-awareness and constant evaluation to not slip into being judgmental. If anything, it's probably safer to assume that you are being judgmental so that you can self-correct, you can actually fix yourself as you go along. Because we don't want to obviously use other people's misfortunes or journeys of where they are right now to make us feel more superior and better about ourselves, because things can look very different a couple of years, like it can all change, and then you could find out that you were the one that was actually wrong. But the main objective of trying to make a judgment between things is that we're just trying to figure out what is the best decisions for us to make for our lives and how to move forward. That's why human beings generally tend to hang out with people who are not that different to them, who are quite similar to them, right? That's why moms hang out with moms, and people of certain religion hang out with other people with similar belief systems and etc. Because if we spend too much time with people who have different value systems to us, then we would continuously have to contend with our own values and continuously negotiate with our own values all the time, which would be very difficult. It would be very difficult to cohesively sort of live day to day. That creates a problem too, because if you're never around people who are different to you, then you're never going to sort of grow, and you obviously won't be able to live cohesively in society either. And so by its very nature, this whole judgment versus judgmental thing is quite complex. So this is the video in a nutshell. We are allowed to make judgments between actions because we're trying to figure out what our values are and what our principles are, and we have to judge between things to figure out which way to go. But if you are judging a person as a whole, then you're being judgmental, and that's obviously not right. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next Wednesday. That's it for now. Bye. Take care.